So at WrestleMania 20, we have a celebration, massive celebration. Doesn't this look a little suspicious to you? They commenced an overkill over two men. Vince has a thing for big men. These are little guys. Little do we know that in about 38 months and 23 days after this WrestleMania, these two men, along with Benoit's wife and little boy, would be dead. Now tell me something's wrong with this situation. I mean, seriously, tell me what's wrong with this situation. That massive celebration in the ring was nothing short of suspicious. Why would you celebrate two men that WWE doesn't exactly have the best admiration for when it comes to size and stature? It brings some lot of suspicious details involving these two men and specifically Benoit's family. And the fact that later on he would not be mentioned in WWE programming. Very suspicious. Well, this video today, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to break down the entire card of WrestleMania 20. It illustrates direct and indirect references to Benoit and to Eddie Guerrero, both. Some instances, just Eddie. Some instances, just Benoit. This card was stacked with telling an entire story, not just with one or two matches, but an entire pay-per-view. And at the end, the celebration. 4 individuals would be dead. Very suspicious set of circumstances, to say the least. But to help us understand, we have to understand what kind of a story WWE at WrestleMania 20 was trying to tell. And here we go. We start with Big Show versus John Cena for the United States Championship. This one's easy. Cena represents both Guerrero and Benoit. Big Show represents the business in general, trying to hold them down until Cena, the small guy, finally overcomes the big guy. Then we have a fatal 4-way tag. Now let me go over this right quick. RVD and Booker represents ECW and WCW, companies that both Benoit and Guerrero have been to. Jindrak and Cade represents the new blood. Benoit and Guerrero at that point in time was the new blood. La Resistance represents two men that are willing to align themselves together. That's what Benoit and Guerrero did coming into WWE. And finally, we have the Dudleys, two brothers. Guerrero and Benoit resemble two brothers of sorts. It's right there in your face. And I didn't realize it until some time back. We have Jericho versus Christian. Both of them fighting over a man. Jericho, the more experienced guy, represents Kevin Sullivan. Christian represents Benoit. Back and forth, it seemed like Trish Stratus, who represents woman, was going to go on Jericho's side. And she dupes him and helps out Christian. Catch the drift now on the story? Then we have a 3-on-2 handicap match. The Rock. The Rock represents the first big name that Guerrero and Benoit interacted with in a major rivalry with DX. The Radicals were helping DX against The Rock. Mick Foley represents a guy that's been to ECW and WCW, just like Benoit and Guerrero. Flair represents the mentor to both Guerrero and Benoit. Batista and Orton, both of them represents the two students under the learning tree of Ric Flair. Ironically enough, Guerrero and Benoit was under that learning tree with Ric Flair. Funny irony. Randy Orton's first world championship would happen this same year in August. against Benoit for the World Heavyweight Championship. Batista, a year later, would rival with Eddie Guerrero before his death. You get the symbology here? WWE is telling a story, not just through one or two matches, but the entire card. But let's keep going. We have the Cruiserweight Championship. This represents Eddie in general, how Eddie fought various promotions in Mexico and eventually in WCW, where at times the Cruiserweight Championship would be on the line with one of these array of people. Ironically, all these people in this picture were from both ECW and WCW, just so you know. Eddie worked with both companies. Then we have Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, which represents how Guerrero and Benoit acted like bulls, just like these two gentlemen here. What does Stone Cold represent? The array of companies who would promote the match with Guerrero and Benoit in it. That's the story they are telling in these matches. Pretty telling. Then we have this other fatal four-way tag. Basham Brothers, two brothers. Again, same as the Dudleys. We have APA. Just references about Guerrero and Benoit. We have Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty, two friends working together. World's greatest tag team. If Guerrero and Benoit were together, they would form a world's greatest tag team. So there you go. Two ladies here, Victoria and Molly Holly. Again, two women, like two men. Tempers flare, going at it for a prestigious prize. Just like Guerrero and Benoit would face each other. Nothing different here. Just women's wrestling. That's the only difference. Eddie would take on Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is the closest resemblance to Chris Benoit. Benoit and Angle's wrestling styles are very similar. They both use the triple German suplex. Both are technical wrestlers. Both are submission specialists. Then we have Undertaker versus Kane, referencing about two brothers facing each other neck and neck, just like Benoit and Guerrero, constantly facing each other, bickering, at odds. When they first wrestled each other back in the day, it was like this. Two sibling rivalries at each other's throats. There you go. And then the main event, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Chris Benoit. Shawn Michaels was trained by Jose Lothario. Lothario had some run-ins with the Guerreros. Reference about Mexican wrestling. How does Triple H fit into all this? He is the game. The wrestling game. Not just a game as the person. How at times Benoit wasn't just fighting various people, but he was fighting the game itself. The wrestling profession in general. That's what Triple H represents. And he overcome the game. He overcome the style from Mexico. Triple threat. 2 against 1. He overcame the odds. So in conclusion, that whole card told a story about Benoit and Guerrero. Do you see why now it's suspicious behavior that they would put on this celebration? Like I said, 38 months, 23 days later, these two men, along with Benoit, the rest of Benoit's family, would be dead. I'm going to do more videos about this and go into more details why this was all a red flag.